One point of note, which is come out in the papers this week, Gail, would be Mikel Arteta has switched from being the head coach now to a manager. So when you have that job title, suddenly you have a lot more responsibilities. Suddenly you're more actively involved in the transfer market and the day-to-day running of the club. Now, Tony's mentioning that Arsenal were unable to correctly identify who to mark in a corner. They're conceding from set pieces. Dominic Calvert-Lewin said that's what they were targeting, that it's a weakness of the side. Have Arsenal made a mistake in making Arteta the manager as opposed to letting him focus on the footballing side of things as a head coach? Have you ever experienced this during your career where you can see a difference between a head coach and a manager?
I've never really seen it, but I guess, you know, it's a different job. It's a different job because you first into the job. It's your first job as a coach or as a manager, however you call it. And in the end, what do you want from the coach or the manager? I will use coach because in the end, that's what we're talking about. You want your coach to make the right decision. You want your coach to be able to make the correct choice with who's going to play and who's not going to play. Unfortunately, Arsenal for 22 years had someone like Arsene Wenger who was spot on in nearly every aspect of what he was doing. And that is for me, I'm coming back I'm going way back down the years where I always said that for me, the problem wasn't so much the players, but it was what the board was able to support in terms of the management. And for me, Arsene Wenger used to be the main guy to do the job. I still believe he is today. And we've seen now it's been 2-3 different coaches. If the board is not backing any manager, they're going to have struggle. Today, we know in football, it's more than having a good team. It's about being able to afford 50 million players. Can Arsenal do that? Like Tony said, I love Willian. He was on a free. Chelsea didn't want to commit with him. There's a reason. David Luiz, same reason. So at one point, the fan will ask, and I think they're already asking. I think now they're realizing that Arsene wasn't the problem, but perhaps it's come from above. And until it's solved up there, I don't think we'll be seeing any tremendous improvement around Arsenal and around the team. But yes, the coach needs to be focused on the start 11, and that's all we should be asking him, even more so for someone like Arteta, who's just new. And I mean, he's so young. He's so young. He's got everything to do. And I know that he's a great coach, and he will do well if he's got the backing from the board. 100%.
It's interesting that Edu was talking, I think it was a fan forum, and he admitted that the Arsenal side were lacking creativity in the midfield. And everybody who's an Arsenal fan was effectively crying out, there's one in the squad, he's just not registered for any competitions. Yet, January is just around the corner. But I've been crunching some numbers because, Gail, I know this is the first time that you've worked with Tony, with us here, but recruitment is the word that he uses the most. So I'm trying to do things a bit different here today, Tony. I've been looking at the contracts and the deals and the money. So since 2018, Arsenal have signed a series of players who are either approaching 30, 28, 29, or who are already over 30. We're talking Mkhitaryan, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was 28 when he joined, Lichtsteiner, Socrates, Cedric, Willian, plus big contracts to Luiz. Willian was on a free, I know I just mentioned him, and let's not forget Ozil, who was about to turn 30 when he signed his current deal. Now, Arsenal have also roughly spent £500 million, give or take, since 2016. They've recouped slightly shy of £200 million. This does not include big severance packages for Unai Emery and his staff, Arsene Wenger, and also salaries for, again, Ozil, who's reportedly on £350,000 a week. And resale value. They're letting players go for free. Sanchez, Ramsey, you expect Ozil to go, Socrates. There's going to be no money generated. And this is a club that opted to sack staff in the summer, yet also sign Thomas Partey. Now, the most important part of a club would be the players on the pitch, because otherwise there is no club. But it's just bad taste, Tony. I mean, how does Arsenal now reset all of this? You often mention recruitment. What is the next step? What do you want to see them do? Do you only want to see younger players? Do you want to see half these players scrapped? What is it?
Well, I at the end of, I was criticising Arsene at the end of his days, but one thing that I never criticised Arsene with was his principles. And he was a physiologist, and he always had principles around. This is the player that I want. I want to play like this, combination play. And it was Santi Cazorla comes to mind. Players that can get to box to box to box. Aaron Ramsey's, physically they've got to be super. Gal, comes into that category. Kieran Gibbs came up. You know what I mean? The box to box players. He let Lasse Diarra go. Came to Portsmouth because Arsene thought that he couldn't get to box to box. He wasn't physically good enough. So he had his principles. What I'm saying is that when I joined the club, a long time ago now, 1979, Arsenal had principles. They had a DNA. And the first thing they looked at was attitude. Didn't matter what age you were. That was the criteria. You got to bring people in that want to play for Arsenal Football Club. As a manager, as a recruitment officer, and I've done both roles, you've got to look that player in the eye and say, you want to, and if you get a feeling, a gut, Harry used to call it, banged on about Harry today, but he always looked at the player and kind of go, do you want it? Do you want to be here? Do you want to do this? Do you want to play for this club? And that was the most important thing, the attitude. On the pitch, you saw that, Tini comes to mind. Great. Peter Clark scouted him. We let Peter Clark go, one of our best scouts. Stephen Morrow, one of our other best scouts. He's gone. Steve Rowley's gone. Been there 40 years. We've kind of hand grenaded the recruitment process. So that's going to take time. But first things first, the sports director and the board, whoever's leading this ship, need to come up with a DNA of a principles of the recruitment process. Are they going to take young players, old players, because we're down in the pecking order where finance are concerned, and the academy, we're going to have to come through the academy then. So Pierre Mertesacker is in charge. His most important person at the club, Arsenal Football Club at the moment, is Pierre Mertesacker. And it's his first time in the job. So there's inexperience everywhere as well. But first things first, you need a DNA. You need principles to bring an Arsenal players into this team.